I tried to prepare my talk a lot, and I forgot to put my name on the first slide. Kalyan.
It's okay, we don't need
Totally
you.
scared of you. So after seeing Giri's slideshow, let me warn you guys that my photographs are the worst you will see ever. Okay, so I started working on the leopard issue many, many years back when I was much younger and perhaps less wiser. And I learned a lot of things along the way, which I think have even influenced me as a person. And I'm really happy that I worked on this topic because it's been a fascinating, these animals have taught me so much that it is incredible. And as Giri was also saying, their level of adaptability is amazing. You know, why are so many of them living on one rock in Beira? And if you ask me, I think they're perhaps as adaptable as we humans are. And we are totally okay with humans being adaptable, but for some reason we don't think that animals can be adaptable, and I think the leopard forces us to realize that. Yeah? And I think working on leopards has also made me realize how amazing India is as a country with respect to wildlife. Rohan, I stole your map. I hope that's okay. But you can just see that, you know, there's wildlife all across India, and you can see many large-bodied species, okay, like the lions, the snow leopard, the wolves, the gaur, the rhino. I mean, it's incredible. In a land of 1 billion people, we have so much of wildlife even today. The largest elephant population, the largest tiger population, leopard population, GIB. I mean, it's incredible. And there are people everywhere in this crazy country. And we also have one of the highest livestock densities in the world. So actually, before I started working on this issue, if you had asked me, you know, what is this scenario, I would say it's it's doomed. You can't have so many people, so much wildlife, so much livestock, but you do, okay? And despite that, we mentally have set aside only these little all these red polygons you see are the protected areas that we have declared in our country, which is 5% of our land area. And in our minds, we think that all this wildlife should live only in these red places. I think we should just stop and think a little bit more. And another thing is, animals have no clue about these red polygons. We've never shared the Wildlife Protection Act with them. We've never shared our maps. We've not had workshops for them saying where they should be. So how can we expect them to just be restricted to within these little red patches? So this is the kind of landscape I started working in. And even, like, it's an entirely revenue land. There's no protected area there. And if you had asked me in 2003, I would have said, no, leopards are not supposed to be here either, because that was my belief that was acting. So, and I think as scientists especially, I don't think we should be believing. I think we should be seeing what the animals have to tell us, and then putting that out again in the public domain. But a lot of us run our professions on belief, which is very bad for the conservation issue as well. So how did I stumble upon leopards? And I really did stumble upon them. And that was because there was a lot of translocation happening in 2001 and 2002, where leopards caught in these croplands, where people are saying, well, they're not supposed to be here, that's abnormal. Catching them and leaving them back in the forests. These chaps have been born in croplands, so they're probably scared of the forest they are dumped in, okay? Probably scared of the first sambar they see in their lives. So anyway, when we started, I was working with a veterinarian, and we were microchipping. The chief wildlife warden said, like, you're telling us it's going to create problem near the site of release, so why don't you microchip these animals and tell us? We didn't have any money then, and microchips were cheap, so it's a little device, you put under the skin, and if it is caught near the site of release, then we can identify that animal. So in that time, nearly about 60, 70 animals we had microchipped. And when I started writing where they are being captured from, they were all from croplands. And majority of them were caught only because they were seen, because of public pressure on the forest department, and not because they had killed people. So that was fascinating for me. How are these animals living among high densities of people, at least 400 people per square kilometer, and yet not killing people. So then we started working there, and so the thing that we did was camera trapping to assess density, and it was not just leopards. So this was also surprising. Firstly, I didn't know if there would be leopards there. Then I found the leopards, and then there were equal density of hyenas, and there were jungle cats, and these are very old camera traps with 36 exposures on the film. You know, it was crazy. Rusty spotted cat breeding in that landscape. So people are searching for rusty spotted cats in forests, but these guys are breeding out here, and you can see why, because full of rodents, this landscape is. And lot of people. So we got 1,800 pictures of people and 81 pictures of leopards. And these people had not seen, they would come like the evening walk to go see camera traps. Like, they're like, oh yeah, we saw it yesterday, walked 2 kilometers to see the camera traps and come. You know? So, and much to my surprise, all nice, well-fed leopards, all leading their own lives. This female later on died in a well. She fell in a well and died. This male used to walk like this really large area. This fellow was called Sri Krishna Nagar male because he used to live in Sri Krishna Nagar. And she was Lakshai, whom we later on collared. And cubs, we also found evidence of cubs, and no female will be straying with her little cubs in tow. Humans will not do it, leopards will not do it. So if there's breeding females, it implies that that is where they live. And we also did scat analysis. So this place doesn't have any wild herbivores at all. Okay, the mammalian herbivores it doesn't have. It has a few langurs, but we found that more than 85% of the diet was domestic animals, huge density of domestic animals, dogs, huge number of dogs. And dogs were very important prey. Then we had the opportunity to collar some animals over there, and which was again fascinating. So we managed to catch that female again, which I told you. Her name was Lakshai. She's buried a pig underneath that arch over there. And it was amazing. Like, this is 8 months or 10 months of information. So just to let you all know that this is a town of 10,000 people way back in 2009-10. And it was also the home of 2 leopards that we collared. This was also their home. And they would sit all day. These are the places where they would sit all day, like the clusters, and this is where they would go in the night. And you have to realize in rural India, everything shuts down in the night. So it is as good as wilderness for the wild animals. You know, there are no humans around, or very, very few humans around. And that's where they live. So you can see that last cluster near the Google icon. That's behind in those fields, and these women planting onions had no clue that this Lakshai used to be sitting there, 60 meters behind them. And just to let you all know, there's never been a human death in this landscape. There are occasional injuries, there are livestock losses. So that was very surprising for me as well, because for me, the presence of this animal must mean severe conflict, and it's not necessarily so. I think it's also a big media construct where only seriously negative incidences are reported. Because you can't write a story which says leopard passed us in the night and didn't do anything, right? So this is Azoba, who was this elderly cat, I think, who again didn't do what we wanted him to do. He fell in a well. He was chasing a dog and he fell in a well. And apparently they got the dog out in a tomato crate, but he died of heart attack later because he was sitting so close to the leopard. That's a story in the newspaper. So the thing what is commonly done is, these are 3 districts. This is Pune district, that is Ahmednagar district, and this is Thane district. And usually leopards caught in any of these areas are left at the district boundary, just on the other side in the next district. So that's what was done with Azoba. He was left there. He was caught over here. And he was left just on the other side in Thane district, where we expected him to stay. But he didn't. In 25 days, he walked 125 kilometers and went straight to Bombay. Okay. He crossed a national highway, railway tracks. He crossed one protected area, another protected area, and he went to Sanjay Gandhi National Park, where he lived for 2 years till he was hit with a vehicle and died in a road accident. But his story fascinated people, okay? And before the story, one night he was in Vasai Industrial Estate, which totally frightened me. And you can see all his spots. That side is Bombay. You can see him going over there. And there was a Marathi feature film made on this cat. Okay, and why I'm putting this up here is, and even like looking at the other talks, like Giri's talk, or even the talks before, we are fascinated by these animals. Everybody is, and we want to engage with these animals. And I think that gives me a lot of hope. Yet, interactions between people and these animals are inevitable, and you have so this is mainly what the media reports, very, very, very negative, either people dying or animals dying. But when you actually go down to the field, you see there are many other interactions which are rarely reported, like that one was in the newspaper, but this farmer in my study site picked up these 2 rusty spotted cat kittens he found near his house, and he thought they were leopard cubs. But he put it back, okay, even though he thought they were leopard cubs. And this happens very commonly where the cubs are found when the sugarcane is being harvested. And there is one NGO there, but even farmers take it and put it in the next field. Sometimes they call this NGO, which takes the cubs and puts it back in the night, and then the female comes and takes it. And then you have interactions like this. So to me, this is incredible, because is the leopard thinking that these people are actually saving me from the well? And the people you see are just curious. They want to see, even like these women and all just want to see the animal. That's their trip. This is a very recent picture a forest officer sent me for my study site. You see this leopard sitting in a sugarcane field. And then it's the goofiest farmer with his selfie. No, so this may seem bizarre, but to me, it is hope that people are fascinated by these animals, and it's what we need to use to leverage what we want done in terms of conservation, yeah? And this is also something I found as part of the journey, that there are people who actually worship large cats. Like, and I always say this, we know about Project Tiger, which started in 1973, right? But we don't know about these institutions which are many hundred years old and which allow the people to navigate their space with these large animals. And the reverence they show is real, okay, to these animals. They understand these animals. They talk about these animals to their young ones, and therefore the young ones also know about these animals before fear sets in. And I think it's important that we acknowledge and use these institutions as well. And for instance, some of the Vagoba shrines we mapped around Bombay, just look at it. So many, and every year they have a ritual done for the cat as well. So to summarize quickly, there is a protected area gaze, in my opinion, where we are looking only inside protected areas and we don't know what is there outside, and that needs to change. And India is probably one of the rare examples where we can see wildlife and people interactions and learn more about it. As Kalyan said, we know very little about these interactions. So this is, I'm always not about leopards, it's about lions in Gujarat. It's a little clip, 3-minute clip from the movie Wandering Lions of India, which you have to see.
At 11 o'clock, the last lights go out. The lion reclaims his ox. The owner of the house discovers a killer on his doorstep. News of the lion travels fast. Villagers rush to the scene. But confronting this 200-kilo lion without protection would be madness. In a rural village in southern Gujarat, unarmed villagers crowd in to watch a huge predator in their midst. The lion doesn't seem to care. He shows no aggression. And the crowd returns that respect.
I just wanted to show that in that little, it's a lovely movie, you should try and see it. It's called India's Wandering Lions. Amazing footage. But it is about how even these people are fascinated by the presence of that animal. And then he has these interviews where the person of that little curved roof house just next to the lion, he says the next day that, like, we are proud that the lion chose to visit our home, you know. So, and yeah, to summarize, all interactions are not conflict. And it's important that we shift the focus from targeting mitigation at the animals to targeting mitigation at the people, because it's people who we understand and it's people we can deal with. There was an incredible forest officer who came to Sanjay Gandhi National Park, and the kind of changes he could invoke were amazing, and I just want to show a video about that.
Dawn unfurls a bustle of activity in Mumbai, a global city that attracts millions in search of fame and fortune. There's another face to India's financial capital. Shadowed by popular impressions, an island of ancient forests thrives within the heart of Mumbai. Sanjay Gandhi National Park. 100 square kilometer treasure trove of India's natural heritage, SGNP represents the greener extreme of Mumbai. But with 35 leopards in this oasis, surrounded by massive urban sprawl supporting around 21,000 people per square kilometer, leopard-human interactions are inevitable. In the past, fear prevailed over reason, and leopards were blindly branded villains, captured and relocated, until scientists discovered that it did more harm than good. Now, backed with scientific understanding and best traditional practices, a people's movement is taking shape. Mumbai is pioneering in our ever-shrinking world the art of coexisting peacefully with this adaptable predator. In a small hamlet inside SGNP, members of the indigenous Wali tribe prepare for their day. They have been living with leopards for as long as they can remember.
वो गांव में अड़चन आता है ना, वो रक्षा करता है, ऐसा हम लोग उसका पूजा करते हैं, हमारा गांव का देव।
What about their god lifting their poultry and livestock?
भूख लगेगी तो लेके जाएगा है ना, अपन कैसा भूख लगेगी तो खाना कभी देंगे घर पे, ऐसा.
Anyway, you can see it on YouTube, but it is how earlier they used to just trap the leopards, but now they've gone on to engaging with different kinds of people, using citizens itself to engage with other people, and it's something that all of y'all can also do wherever y'all are. So if you ask me, can we help for my little experience, I will say that if you have basic knowledge, that helps. You need to engage with the important stakeholders. Like for instance, here there is Vidya Venkatesh and Virat Singh, media person, and people who just give their time for the project without any monetary consent, just because they want to help. And it's made such a big difference. Like you have citizens working for other citizens to resolve the human-leopard conflict issue. And we have to work with other people if we need to get any change done. And we all could be catalysts at doing that. And that is all I had to say. Thank you.